Welcome to YMI Talking, a podcast where the guests are so good, you'll wonder why the host is even talking. In each episode, you will hear one of the leaders of the Lehigh Valley's vibrant business hub. They will tell you the keys to their success, the mistakes they've made, and what they have in store for the future. Here is the host of YMI Talking, from YMI Insurance, Jimi Honochick.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Why Am I Talking? Today you are absolutely going to wonder why I'm talking. I cannot tell you how excited I am to have these guests on today. If you grew up in the Lehigh Valley, if you passed through the Lehigh Valley, if you breathed air that once passed through the Lehigh Valley, you are going to have heard of the institution that these guys are a part of. We have Matt McClanahan and Lauren McChesney from Shankweilers. And these guys are unbelievable. They are breathing new life. They are rejuvenating what is an absolute landmark of the Valley. And I am so excited to talk to them. I'm going to calm myself down. I'm going to turn it over to them. Hey, guys, thank you for coming on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I like I said, I'm very excited. You guys, I said you're breathing life and energy into it. And I'm not joking. In the past week, I have seen you guys doing so many different things. So thank you for scheduling me in there somehow. Like, I saw you, Friends of Pete. You put on a thing for seniors with the moving picture cinema. You were Rotary, Penn State. Like, how do you guys have the energy for all of this?
Well, half those things are on Zoom, so that helps.
Yeah, that did help. I mean, I think the other answer is we don't really. We're powered by coffee and adrenaline.
I guess an important note is that there's two of us. So while I'm at the drive-in fixing broken stuff and making things look nice, Lauren is out and doing the marketing and meeting people and giving me more things to do. So it's really a dream team situation where, both of us have our strengths and really play to them and kind of elevate Shankweilers to, like you said, to a new level.
That's interesting. I think about myself and my dad and I, we have a partnership here. And you need to find someone who has the strengths and weaknesses that you don't, and you guys can partner well together. So, I mean, maybe a little bit of background. Where'd you guys come from? What are your strengths and weaknesses?
Do you want to start or you want me to start?
So my background is actually social work. I was a medical social worker for almost 20 years. I was a family therapist for a little bit, and then I worked in a hospital. And towards the end of working in the hospital, it was, COVID time, and got real burned out. I was doing some marketing for a nursing home and just saw kind of the worst of all of it. And throughout the whole thing, I was like, I have to get out of this. Like, I don't want to be doing this anymore. So, and we'll go into how we ended up getting to Shankweilers, but really my entire background is social work. I have no business. I have no drive-in experience or anything like that.
I'm going to dive into that in a little bit. I want to give Matt his due, but I'm so curious how you make that transition. So Matt, what's your background?
My background's a little more in line, I guess, with the industry. I have a background in film and filmmaking. I went to Temple for film, Temple University, and I had a study away program while I was there. Spent 4 months in Los Angeles working in the industry. And in that time, two things happened. I got disillusioned with the film industry. I didn't really jive with the LA scene. But I fell in love with art house cinemas and movie houses. LA has a ton of cool independent theaters. A lot of them are historic. They've been around forever. So it was really a wonderful experience to be able to go to these places and see even just like an exciting new release movie was just fun in these theaters. And so I brought that fascination back to Pennsylvania and no sooner that I got back here, I discovered another old drive-in that I worked at that I helped sort of revitalize and restore. So I tell people the drive-in is in my blood. And I've been doing it for about 7 or 8 years now. So I'm no stranger to the theater industry at this point, but taking on Shankweiler's has certainly been a new experience and a very exciting new chapter.
Yeah. No, that's great. So you and I both did that LA Study Away program. And I would say, yes, I also developed an appreciation for the culture out there that I didn't realize was out there. But what I did love was, like you said, those cinemas, and you get experiences that you couldn't get elsewhere. I saw Airplane in one of those theaters, which is like one of my favorite movies. And they had the writers come in and talk about it afterwards. And things like that are so cool. And just, it's nice to be out there. But I think you're right. Like, it's a different culture. And so for you to be able to come back and bring the good parts of that culture here to people at Shankweiler's is really cool. And so tell me, I guess, like, what are you guys trying to do? Like, how are you trying to bring that culture and bring that excitement here?
I mean,
as we look at each other awkwardly. Well, so I just didn't know who wanted to talk first. I ramble a lot.
That's a good question for you.
So drive-in theaters, they peaked in the 50s. They've been around even longer, and a lot of drive-in owners have operated these theaters for decades. And a lot of them are older. A lot of them are approaching retirement. And so the drive-in model hasn't gone through a lot of changes. It sort of showed up. There was all this innovation, and then it kind of stagnated and sat there. And so what we're trying to do is bring this model into 2023. And we're doing that mainly through programming, diversifying the movie and event offerings at the theater. And we're also doing that with community partnerships. Drive-ins have always historically been, they show up, they open up at 6 o'clock, they play the movies when it gets dark, and everyone goes home. And that's kind of it. It's a by the books movie theater. And what we're doing is expanding that into events during the daytime, into partnerships with community organizations, anything from car shows, fundraisers, craft fairs, all kinds of stuff that we can do at the theater and on the theater property that isn't just the movies. And we're still doing the movies, and we're very good at the movies. But the idea of sort of elevating that experience, bringing new experiences into the theater. A great example of that would be, a couple weeks ago, we had a food truck come in, and they brought menu items that we don't offer. So, we have our typical snack fare, popcorn, hamburgers, things like that. But this food truck had tacos and barbecue and all kinds of unique menu items that we didn't have. We've also brought breweries, distilleries. Soon we're bringing in wineries. So there's always something new. So even though we're still playing the movies, there's always a little bit of something extra or something different happening at the theater.
And also the being open year round.
Yes.
That is a big thing too.
Yes, that's a big thing, but it's kind of a fun fact with that. Drive-ins historically have been year-round. It's actually kind of a modern phenomenon that they're seasonal. And a lot of that has to do with the owner-operators getting older and not feeling like going through the winter months and just wanting to make the most money they can in the summer months and then just let it go in the winter. And a lot of people, drive-ins are a part-time gig or a supplemental income. For us, it is our full-time job. This is what we do. So we're putting our whole focus in.
That's really interesting. Like, what I'm hearing is you've got a plot of land, right? Like, you have a desirable plot of land, and historically the drive-in theaters make money on that, 2 nights a week? But you're saying you can leverage that and use it and host things and make it more than just the theater. It's now like a community space where people can come in, right? That's awesome. I like, it seems like such an easy concept. It's awesome that it's happening, that you guys are doing this. That's really cool. So, Lauren, I've seen you doing a lot of these events, and it sounds like that's sort of maybe the community arm of this. How do you make that jump? Like, as a person who's just a scared human being in life, like, how do you take a successful career with no business experience and say, here we go, I'm going head first into this?
I don't know. It just sort of felt like the right time and the right thing to do. I switched jobs a couple of times towards the end of my healthcare career, and it just kept feeling worse and worse. Like, even just changing different agencies and trying different things, and I was just like, this is just not where I'm supposed to be right now. So Matt said, like, we were in the process of trying to buy Shankweiler's at that point, like the early stages, like working on contract negotiations and everything. And Matt was like, you have to keep a regular job right now because, like, you know, to get us through, to get us till we get started. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then quit anyway. So that was a little bit chaotic and maybe not the best way to go around, but it worked out eventually anyway. I like I said, towards the end of working in the hospitals, I had some marketing experience. So I was doing marketing for a nursing home and then for a hospice. And so I learned just some basic fundamentals of how to do marketing pretty effectively. So when I made this jump into working with the cinema, I came at it with this approach of like, we could be doing so much more if we market it correctly. And Matt and I really love going to drive-ins. We traveled across the country going to a whole bunch of different ones. And we've been like analyzing it and taking notes on what are they doing that's successful and what are they doing that could be improved upon, and using that to make our model be a little bit stronger. So one thing we noticed is that sometimes these drive-ins were just in the middle of nowhere and they had no signage. You didn't even know they were there. We came across one in like a mountain in Vermont. We were like, oh my God, this is the cutest thing. And we'd never heard of it. Wow. So there is this opportunity to really get into marketing and advertising and, you know, being more public with the things that are being done. Like, you've seen us on social media, and that's something that, like, a lot of drive-ins have a social media presence, but they aren't necessarily doing it in a strategic way. And we're trying to be very strategic and make good choices to try to bring this more to the forefront of people. We're constantly surprised how many people are like, oh, I didn't even know that Shankweiler's was still open or still existed. And even the township, we met with the township when we bought it, and they were like, now how long has it been closed? Yeah. And we were like, 3 weeks. And they were like, oh, okay. So
the zoning officer thought it was vacant. And we're like, no.
Yeah. So like, how do we teach people that it is not closed, in fact?
And social media, I feel like, is a great tool to do that, right? So you guys are getting out there, putting your name out there. It's very clear to me from having followed you guys that you are open and thriving and doing exciting things.
Hey.
So that's a powerful tool, right? But you just have to use it correctly. And are there inspirations, like the theater community? When you did your road trip, are there theaters that you knew you wanted to see who are doing it right and are examples for you?
I mean, we just sort of like would find them whenever we mapped out where we would go. I would say that a big inspiration for us was the Dependable Drive-In out near Pittsburgh in Moon Township, because they are also year round. We went for my birthday in February last year and caught just a movie of the week. I think it was Uncharted. Yeah. They had 2 screens open. There were 4-screen theater, and there was a crowd there.
There was like slush on the ground. It was very cold, and there was still people.
There was people there, and I was thinking, this used to be a normal thing, and for this little pocket of the world, it still is. So how can we bring that experience back to this side of the state? And so that was really what got the gears turning to go year round.
That's great. So has this been a bunch of little trips, or did you guys do like the Great American Road Trip and hit every cinema that you could?
It was just, I mean, it was a big little one. It was literally like 2 weeks before lockdown that we got home. So like it was already a weird time, and it was in the winter, but we drove to New Mexico from here. We drove down Route 66. Like we caught that in Missouri and took that down and just sort of stopped at drive-ins on the way. So it was just supposed to be a fun little trip that we did, and we ended up stopping at a lot more drive-ins than we thought we would. Kind of looking, I mean, it was in the winter, so a lot of them were closed. So we didn't really see them functional, but we took a lot of notes and looked at them.
That's really cool.
And we've been to all the ones.
Oh yeah, all the ones that are local
in our area. So all the local ones around here, we've attended.
Yeah.
And so you, Matt, were involved with the local theater space. What? Tell me about the moving picture cinema, how it came about, what it does. I have like a general concept of it, but I want to hear more about it.
So Shankweiler's is not my first drive-in. It's the first one that I've owned, but it's not the first one that I've worked at. And so I had that background with operating drive-ins and the drive-in experience. And I realized that, it's such a magnetic thing that people, as when they discover it, immediately fall in love. But a lot of communities do not have access to them. As Lauren said, they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, most of them anyway. So it's almost a discovery when you find one. So I started the Moving Picture Cinema in 2019, and with the mission to bring the drive-in experience to areas that don't have one. And it started out really small. We were doing little niche brewery shows, winery shows, and 20 people coming out. Like it wasn't anything. We're making like a little splash in the pond. But when the pandemic hit and we hit lockdown, there was an immediate need for outdoor exhibition, and the company grew
like
overnight. So I left my drive-in to pursue moving picture full time and help communities that needed this entertainment. Mainly indoor theaters that were closed down relied on us for their outdoor exhibitions. So I toured with a whole bunch of theaters outside of Philadelphia to do their outdoor movies. And that's a partnership that exists even today. I still do those events because it's a very successful thing for them, and it's something that the community has kind of fallen in love with. So it's exciting to see these things grow and then cement themselves into a community.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you truly are taking a drive-in theater concept to people. Without getting too technical, like how does it work? How does the projection happen? How does the sound happen? Like I'm struggling, but I'm not the smartest.
So with the mobile stuff, so we have 3 screens currently. We have a little like 12, 13 foot screen that's like an aluminum frame, but our other 2 screens are inflatable. So you blow them up with a blower, and they're 20 foot and 33 feet. And so the 30 footer is a giant tower. That's what you see in like movie in the park events or like the big outdoor gatherings of like 200-300 people. That's what we'll use. And to light that screen up, it's 2 venue projectors stacked in series to double the brightness. So I'm actually running multiple projectors and mapping them together to get a bright, clear picture for everybody. And that's only for the biggest one. And for sound, there's a couple options. If you're doing like a drive-in style event where people are watching from cars, we do have an FM transmitter so they can tune into the movies. Most of the time we use just big amplified stereo speakers, giant, 2,000 watt amplifiers. And that's typically what we do.
So it's a lot more than just putting a DVD in a player and letting it go.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So,
and so you're running that.
We do come up with that a lot.
What was that?
I said we do run up to that a lot. Like when people reach out to us wanting to do an event, not really knowing what exactly goes into it. So one of our fortes is kind of guiding people through that process.
And so you're doing that, and COVID happens, and there's a huge demand for it. How do you get from there to saying, oh, you know what, Shankweiler's looks like a cool thing? Like, I love the expansion, but what was the step? How did you get there?
So like Matt said, he was doing a lot of shows down outside Philly, and we sort of had this like little dream of like, but what if we open up a drive-in down here since everyone seems to like it? So we were looking at land in like Doylestown and Quakertown and, you know, a little south of here where there isn't a drive-in. And we were like, there's no way that we can afford to buy anything here to build anything. But we had this little seed of just really wanting to own our own drive-in, take all this knowledge that we had collected and make something that's very uniquely us. We drive past Shankweiler's all the time. It had been for sale for a few years on and off. We saw a news article about how it was still for sale. And then on a whim, Matt was like, well, maybe I'll just go on a little tour and look at it. And then it snowballed from there.
And so, go ahead, Matt.
It was February and that news article came out. And so I went over there, met the owners, met the realtor, and we did a little tour. And at the end of it, I just said, all right, we want it. Let's make it happen.
if we hadn't bought it, like they've told us, we were the last option. Otherwise, they were going to sell it to a warehouse or a developer. Yeah.
And how cool for it to go to two local people who are really going to like put their love and attention into it. It could have gone, like you said, anywhere in any direction. But this really kind of anchors it to the community now.
Paul, one of the owners, later told me after we purchased it that one of the reasons why he really wanted us to buy it was because our company is called the Moving Picture Cinema. And the moving picture is a really old school way of describing a motion picture film. That's what they were called. They were called moving pictures in the early movie house days. So he's like, you're a guy that understands this industry that knows the significance of the history of this. And so that was interesting to hear that it was just the namesake of our company. That was a big selling point for him.
No, I mean, it worked out though. That's great. Are you guys from the area originally?
I grew up south of here. So I grew up in the Harleysville, Souderton area. And then moved up here 4 or 5 years ago.
4, I think.
4 years ago. So I've always been Lehigh Valley adjacent. And I, in fact, grew up going to Shankweiler's. So that was actually part of my childhood. So I have a lot of memories seeing movies there.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so I'm a military kid. So I have lived everywhere and nowhere. Like, I don't know. I moved here 15 years ago and have somehow set down roots. So I've never lived anywhere this long. Wow. So I guess this is my home now. Yeah. Now I've tied myself to this property, so I'll be here for the rest of my life.
How cool is that, though? Like, Matt grew up going to Shankweiler's and is now there. And you have found a home and can make it bloom. Like, it's really cool. Do you guys want to play a game?
Maybe.
Okay, good. I knew you guys would be excited. This game is going to be called You Think You're Better Than Me? And basically what's going to happen is I'm going to say something. And if it applies to you, you say yes, me, whatever. And if it doesn't, then don't say anything. There's just one round. It's sudden death. All right. Are you guys ready? Here we go. If you have a Guinness Book of World Records, say, I do.
I do.
So you think you're better than me. You guys have a Guinness Book of World Records record. How cool is that? What is your record for?
It's for the oldest operating drive-in in the world.
That is awesome.
And not just America, but the world.
Wow. When did you find out you had that?
Like a week.
Yeah. About a month ago.
Do they send you anything? Like, in my mind, there's this big Guinness committee. They come and they give you and they present the award. What is it like?
So this is exactly what we were talking about with the marketing issue. Is this apparently was awarded like years ago.
Wow.
And like to the previous owners, we have no idea where the certificate is or when it was awarded, but it's on the website. So we found it. We were like, okay.
All right, cool.
Like we need to tell everybody about this.
Absolutely. So that is super cool.
Well, it's funny because, we were always America's oldest drive-in, and I have a recorded intro at the theater and I also on the phone go, America, the oldest drive-in in America and the world. And Laura was always like, you don't know if it's the world. Why do you keep saying that? I'm like, I'm pretty confident it's the world. Yeah. And then we found the record and we're like, it's the world.
That's really cool. Good for you guys. So I want to know, like, you guys, you might, I feel like I know what the answer is going to be, but I have to ask, favorite movies. Do you guys have favorite movies? I feel like you're going to say no, but do you have favorite movies?
I hate that question.
I knew it.
So here's what we usually tell people is we love going to movie theaters and we love going to drive-ins, but we are like not experts about movies. I think everyone expects that we've seen every movie under the sun, and we haven't. I haven't even watched most of the ones we've shown. But my favorite one is Titanic. I'm a diehard with Titanic from 1997.
And Matt, are you going to plead the fifth here?
I usually say Manhunter. Even though I don't know if I would call it a favorite film, but it definitely is like a cool movie that I like a lot and was inspiring in my filmmaking. So I always go with that as a default.
That's cool.
Star Trek, Star Wars, grew up with those. They were big influences.
I'm slowly roping my children into the Star Wars universe, and they're coming. So I'm excited. It's great stuff. So what's next for you guys? You've got Shankweiler's, you've got the moving picture cinema. Tell me how you think you see them coming together. What's sort of next on the horizon for you?
So they're kind of operating in tandem right now. Shankweiler's is our roots in the ground, solid venue space, and the moving picture cinema is kind of orbiting it and doing similar programming, but on the road. So moving pictures kind of proceeding as it normally does. It hasn't really changed too much in terms of how it operates. The only big difference is now we have a giant theater at our core, which is not just a big marketing tool for us, but also just a way of sort of expanding on some events that we've always wanted to do that we just didn't have the physical space to do them.
Yeah. And you've been with Shankweiler's now. When did you officially take over? November, you were saying?
November. Yeah.
So what are like the biggest surprises and challenges you've had in that time?
Our projector broke in the second week of operation.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I really had to quickly learn how to take apart a DCI certified projector and reassemble it without messing something up. So that was.
How much does a projector like that cost? Like, I feel like I'd be terrified to go into that.
Approximately $150,000.
Oh my goodness! Were you terrified?
Yes.
Yeah. We were very fortunate that while the projector's a little older, it was still under warranty.
Okay.
So we were able to get a lot of parts and a lot of troubleshooting without having to go out of pocket for it, which was very lucky for us because that would have not been good. It turns out that it was just a loose connector, but it took pulling the entire thing apart and, cleaning everything out. But it's, and I'm knock on wood, it's running all right now.
But in the interim, we still had to function. We still have to pay bills, so many bills.
The moving picture.
So we used our moving picture equipment, and for a couple weeks, Matt was projecting out of the back of the van onto our screen. So we were just showing some older movies. We still had people coming out. We were still able to use the sound, and it wasn't ideal, but it got the job done. So in that way, we were able to bring those companies together.
It was an odd sort of advertising opportunity for them
Unfortunate, but yeah.
Because we're doing these events where we're lighting up a giant drive-in screen, and the people in the front row are like looking at this van like, wait, is the movie, is it coming from a van? So people are like watching this, and then I get on the radio like, hey guys, yeah, our projector is still broken, but here we are. We've got our moving picture system in our van, so we're ready to roll.
Yeah,
and they were great shows. People were super excited to be there and be part of that. And it's funny because we'll have returning customers coming back now and going, oh, I kind of missed the van.
So maybe make the van a permanent institution. But it's great that they were able to come together, like your two businesses, and really complement each other like that. And it proves out, I think, the model that it sounds like you guys are building, which is you've got your anchor, you've got Shankweiler's, and then you can orbit around it with a more flexible, a more scalable operation. That's really cool.
Yes.
As you guys look out 5-10 years from now, where do you want it to be? Where do you want the business to be? Are there a bunch of vans running around Shankweiler's? Like, what does it look like to you guys?
I think there's a bunch of drive-ins.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Ideally, yeah, we'd really love to still build a new one somewhere. We'd love to, revive some of the older ones that are abandoned. We just see drive-ins being so successful and people just not trying to revive them really. And we really want to be part of that and bring that back because we know people love to go to it, and we don't think that that's going to stop anytime soon.
I tell people that the drive-ins as an industry hasn't declined; it has changed, and what has happened is the current operators aren't changing with the times. So there is a lot of opportunity within the drive-in theater to be successful, to be profitable, to make an impact in your community. You just have to innovate a little bit and figure out how your theater can integrate into this modern time. But the drive-in being such an experiential thing, things like streaming and innovations with indoor cinema, they're not really a threat or a competition to the drive-in theater. Those are totally different experiences that operate in almost a different universe. When you go to a drive-in, you're kind of entering your own little pocket dimension, and the rules are a little different here. So I always say that when you're going to see a movie at a drive-in, you're getting an experience you cannot get anywhere else, and you're going to take that experience with you. You're going to want to come back.
No, that's great. And that's an interesting way of thinking about it. Your competition probably isn't like the Lowe's of the world. Your competition is really like, I could go out to a ball game or something, or I could have that experience at the drive-in, because it is truly its own unique experience.
A lot of drive-ins that rely on local attendance will see significant rise and falls just from high school football season. Yeah. So it's really just the other outdoor activities. That's our competition. It's not the movie theaters or streaming.
Yeah. That's interesting. All right. So we're going to wrap it up. I know we're getting near the end. We have a sponsor, Notch Modern Kitchen and Bar. They are awesome. They are our sponsor. And so we like to do a little segment at the end of each one of these for them. It's called Kicking It Up a Notch. And so it sounds like at your theaters, you've brought in multiple breweries and distilleries. And so I'm going to ask you, you're sitting down to your favorite movie. So we're either watching Titanic or Manhunter, and you have the choice of any drink in the world. It could be a cocktail, a glass of wine. What are you going to? What's your go-to here?
For a cocktail or
any alcoholic beverage, I guess, or on non-alcoholic.
Right. A yellow American beer.
There we go.
I'm an IPA girl. Yeah. So yeah. So probably a nice little IPA. Not a lot, just a little. Yep.
No, that's perfect. All right. Well, that's it. I cannot thank you guys enough for coming on here. This has been really great. Shankweiler's is awesome. You guys are doing such an amazing job. So thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. All right. See you guys.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the YMI Talking podcast. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more content from amazing personalities in the Valley, please subscribe, leave a rating, and drop us a quick review.